748 Pacific Point, Scotland Enterprises, ITN, and Jack in the Box proud to present this episode of The Link. Speaker Therese Terlaje joins us now for her every other Wednesday check-in, which is today because she had scheduling stuff yesterday. So good morning, Speaker.
Good morning, Chris, Sabrina, Jason, and all of KUAM and all of Guam. Good morning.
Good morning. It's been a while. Before I even get to the plan from the governor's office, I did want to just talk about the oversight hearing because I don't think we had a chance to kind of go over that with the original landowners that testified, Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, as well as Department of Land Management. I mean, I just think that's extremely important as we kind of eye the Eagles Field area, or it might even be a done deal by now. But just, what happens next? You had the oversight hearing, so what's next for you?
Well, the Ancestral Lands Commission assured me that they would try their best to notify any other landowners that were not present at that hearing, or that they know, or they haven't, neither of us have heard from, just so that they are aware. We were getting the lay down on the map of the actual 100 acres that they're looking at versus the lots that these owners own, right? So that we can get the exact lot numbers, and now we can be more precise, because before we were just talking to them about, they're talking about in the area or the vicinity of your land, but now we know for sure, like some of those that testified at the hearing, it's exactly their parcels, right? Their lots. So that was the next step, was to get those the exact lot numbers and notify those landowners. That's what Ancestral Lands has promised to do, is to notify them. That's what they were going to do. I think they were looking at an ad and phone calls. So they do have some contact information. Not sure how updated it is, but they do have the contact information.
There was one original landowner, and I didn't know, and I don't know if it was accurate. He was mentioning something about a 100-year lease. Did you catch that?
Well, we don't know. This is what's one of the points of the hearing is they're talking about a lease, but no one knows what's the term of that lease, right? Is it going to be 2 years, 50 years, or 100 years? So of course, the whole contention is if they are willing to lease it long term, then it looks to us like they do not need it. It's excess. And if it's excess, and I don't even think we need to debate this anymore, because we have a letter from the Admiral saying, or the Secretary of the Navy saying, they are willing to return 100 acres, right? That they are willing to do that, and they're going to put it on their list. So that means it's not necessary for them. They're willing to return it. So we should deal that way, not deal with the lease. That is meaning they're going to keep ownership of it. And so that's where I think, there's several issues going on here. One is the landowners are not involved. They're not being dealt with. Second, we couldn't tell for sure which lots they were talking about. Now, hopefully we know. The third one is, yes, why are we still dealing with a lease when we have a letter from the Secretary of the Navy saying he's willing to transfer it, to return it, right? And so that's the whole big deal. So I'm thinking the lease, that's why it makes it look like the lease is really just a vehicle to get around doing anything with the original landowners, or dealing with them. That's why it looks, bad. And that's why we're having these hearings. We want to, kind of flush out what is the intention here? Why are we dealing with a lease when we have a letter saying they are willing to return the land to the government of Guam?
But the governor's kind of made it clear that this is where she wants the new $1 billion healthcare complex, and you have these original landowners that are over at the legislature in tears, emotional. They want their land. I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, is there anything the legislature can do?
Well, rightly so. I mean, all the land returns on Guam really stemmed from landowners like that coming and making their voices heard, people giving them an opportunity to be heard, and really it's their non-ending efforts that have really got any land on Guam returned. So all of us who had any land returned anywhere on Guam, we should be, I didn't have any, but we should be grateful for everyone who came before us, who fought for their land to get returned. right? And fought for land in general to get returned. And that's why we have this policy in law. And so I intend, to stand by that policy. I think the senators are going to as well. What we're looking at is an executive branch who is making a negotiation, and from what we can gather together, they're making a negotiation that bypasses this policy, this law that's in place, and it completely bypasses these landowners. So no, I don't think, I don't know. We haven't seen a draft of the license, which we FOIA'd, right? So they claim that there's none, but I think that's not true because it's very clear there's a back and forth draft license or lease agreement that is in place. There's a draft for sure. They have not released it to us on the FOIA, so I'm consulting with counsel regarding that. The other thing we know for sure is that what the Secretary of Navy says he's going to return it, it should get returned. And then we can deal with it as a government of Guam, right? And we can take care of the landowners, and we have methods of taking care of the landowners. But that's why I don't think it's acceptable that the governor is negotiating with the Navy a lease or a license instead of just following through with what the Navy has already said they will do, and that is to return the land. That cannot be acceptable. And I hope that for all the people of Guam, and not just these particular landowners, and that for all original landowners who have had land return or who are still waiting for land return, that they're paying attention, because this is a huge shift in policy, a huge bypass of the law, potentially, right? That if we allow, I think you can expect that to continue. And I'm just praying, and I'm really grateful actually, because I've heard from a lot of people of Guam who've been silent for very long about most of the things that are going on. But when it comes to this, they're not going to remain silent anymore. And look at these landowners, they're trembling. They come in here and they're very emotional. And I really feel for them that they have to go through this again. I mean, haven't we been through enough when it comes to land, right?
That's why when it's being,
we've protested, jumped fences, everything.
And now here it is at the end of the day, our own people are holding land back from our own people. That's why it's so hard to swallow. But Madam Speaker, we got the governor on this a few months back, and she was very clear that in her opinion, based on whatever research she did, that these original landowners were already compensated. That's what she told KUAM News, right? It was all over the news. So fast forward to today, you've had these hearings, like Sabrina and everyone witnessed, very emotional original landowners trembling, coming to tears, because they just can't grasp that the governor would circumvent this process that, like you said, has been in place for decades, the process for return of lands from the federal government. So I don't know. I feel like the governor is, she pays attention. Her people definitely pay attention. So if they saw this hearings, why didn't they come out and say, oh my God, are you serious? You're concerned about it? Well, let me figure this out and let's talk about this, instead of this just like ignoring the issue. Because if the governor wants this health complex and she wants it there, then, she should be able to justify why these original landowners are just being ignored. You're right. They're crying and no one's hearing. I don't know.
Right. Well, you're going to have to ask the governor to answer as to the why she's doing that. But I heard her come on the radio, I think the very next day, and say straight out, no, the land's not being returned. We're going to lease it. And this is what I'm telling you. It's mind-boggling when we have a letter from the Navy saying we are willing to return 100 acres. And this is a change, because prior to this, they had listed return of 50 acres, right? And we had no idea where those 50 acres were going to be. And so now they're saying 100 acres. So, to her credit, she got them to increase from 50 to 100. But but now I don't understand why we're still talking about a lease or a license of it.
So what about the other land, Speaker? We did this story, that communication with the governor and DOD. There's a lot of other land that's in the process of being transferred back to the government of Guam. So how do we keep this from happening with all this other land?
No. Okay, so we went through that in the hearing as well. Thanks for reminding me. So we went through the list of all the other land that is slated for return and in the process of being returned, not just promised. It's in the process already, right? But it sounds to me from the testimony of the Department of Land Management that most of these properties are already kind of being sought for easements, right? They're either water, power, or other easements that the government of Guam looks to me like they want to keep. So this is another thing that, we charge the Ancestral Landowners Commission. They were all there, and I want to give them all credit. They stayed, they listened, and I think they really do care about these landowners and want to do what is just. So they promised that they thought they should take it upon themselves to also notify those landowners as well. That was my goal. So I'm very glad that they agreed to do that they're going to notify those landowners so that they also are aware that their property is potentially not going to be returned, is going to be kept by the government of Guam, and that they're in front of that, right? Because you got to get in front of it, or they will just ignore you and obviously make a deal around you. So I wanted them to be in on that. And
do you hear what you're saying, Speaker? Do you hear what you're saying? Do you hear what you're saying? You're saying that original landowners need to be very aware because the governor's going to sneak around the backside and take their land because the military. I mean, is that where we're at now?
This is kind of looking to me like, I don't know. I have given them so many opportunities to come and explain themselves, to make it very clear that that's not our intention. But opportunity after opportunity, they come back and they say, we're doing this, So I'm just saying, if that's the case, then, I think landowners and all of us, we need to stand by the landowners and help them to get into the negotiating position. And okay, this is the bottom line. The governor can say, we're going to keep this property. We're not going to return it to ancestral landowners if it gets returned, right? She can do that. But if she wants to do that, it puts an obligation on all of us to take care of these landowners, right? That's what the law says, that they're going to be compensated out of the trust fund. And this is a problem because we have not been able to compensate landowners out of the trust fund, right? And there's some people say, oh, but you've got millions of dollars in the trust fund. The millions of dollars is nothing when you look at the number of landowners that need to be compensated, right? That's the big issue that everyone needs to understand. If you don't get your land back, you might end up with pennies. You know what I mean? That's what they're looking at right now. And so because they're trying to resolve how are they going to increase leases and income so that we can pay people who the government has decided to keep their land. And so I just want that if we are going to keep land in the government of Guam, that should be going back to original landowners, that we should be doing that on a very deliberate basis. Like, this land is so crucial and there is no other replacement for it. We can't use any other government land for this purpose. And so it is worth it for us to keep it and compensate these landowners.
Thank you, Speaker. We're going to jump over the top of the hour because we did have a few other questions for you relative to ARP. It's 8:01 on the breeze. We're KUAM FM, Agatna Guam, KUAM TV. Fix yourselves, guys. Here we come. Good morning. Good morning, Guam. Yep, it's Thursday, December 2nd, 2021. Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, IT&E, and Jack in the Box. Proud to present this episode of The Link. It's Thursday. Coming up in this hour, we've got our 8 o'clock newscast. We have Tomas Maglotnia, CNMI regional issues, and then we're also going to get some winners. Who do you count on, Guam? We've got 3 awesome prize packages, courtesy Calvo's Insurance, to give away in the 8 o'clock hour. It's so easy when we start talking about who we count on. Then you're just going to call in here, 671-637-0094, and you're going to tell us who in your life you count on and why. And we're going to give you it's really awesome prizes, guys. So keep on listening to The Link. It's 8:03. Let's get back into it with Speaker Therese Terlaje. But before we do, Speaker, I wanted to play this little clip here of the governor who is off island at the National Governors Association, the winter meetings. And so here's this little clip of our governor, and she's discussing the successful efforts of the National Governors Association in lobbying Congress to give governors full authority over the ARP funds.
Like, look how we were discussing about the ARP, and one of the things that we wanted is for the governors to have discretionary power over the ARP, and that happened, right? We were given, and I'll tell you, my senators in Guam are very upset because they cannot appropriate the $596 million that.
I have a feeling you played that soundbite for one part in particular.
Well, I know that Senator Moylan's making a big deal about the my senator's part, but just as a speaker, if you could just react to that kind of clip, because I don't know, if I was a senator, it would have rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, a lot of this stuff regarding the ARP is rubbing us the wrong way, obviously, right? I mean, from the start, they don't want to release a plan. From the start, we tried to give them a plan, and they say, oh, thank you very much. We're going to work with you. And we really haven't seen much work with you. We had to go through an entire budget process without a plan on how $600 million in federal funds is going to be spent. It is an incredible, I think, lack of transparency and an incredible lack of collaboration, right? And collaboration is maybe not necessary in some of their minds, but it doesn't work for me because I don't understand how they think. When they've shorted it, in their budget requests for critical agencies such as public health, promising ARP funds, and then, expect us to follow suit with a budget that, does that. And then we see no ARP funds for public health. Things like this, they make no sense to me. So I just don't think, I don't know. I mean, I don't expect that the other governors are as, joking about it, because I think in all the other states it's very, very serious, and I am very serious about it. That what the governors spend without transparency, or if we can't make those funds work together with our local funds, that we are just going to be, wasting funds. We're going to end up in the end with things that are either duplicated, which is, not necessary, and then a waste, or we're going to end up with things that are really not that necessary, while we have gaping holes, like at public health, that are not funded at all. And so it's like a, discombobulated government, and that's not what you want. Legislatures, they can joke all they want, but if the legislature is responsible for local funds, for example, general funds, they have hundreds of millions of dollars, and now they want us to take general funds and put it into some programs that they refuse to fund out of ARP. And in other states, the legislatures are maybe more united and are able to, hold the governors more accountable. And if you look at like different states like Hawaii, they show their plans, and many states, they work them even into the laws, so that, when the governor says this is what we're going to do, the governors are open and they want to make that promise to the people, and so they are willing to put those, and incorporate those into the law, so that it shows we're putting this much money, of federal, and then it's going to go to this project, and the legislature gives the authority for certain projects, right, to happen, and it should work together. That's how to make programs that we have not seen on Guam, infrastructure that we want to last, and so I don't know. I still see the need, and I think it's very apparent to me now when we've seen this draft or their plan, and they have not funded, for example, public health, the $14 million shortfall in public health that they promised to fund, and instead we're funding employees and things like this, which in our proposal we said, please don't fund employees out of this ARP money. We want lasting changes to Guam, and we want something that is sustainable. And when we fund employees out of the ARP fund, it's not sustainable going forward. We're not going to have that money after the 2 years. And how do we fund those employees?
Right. Speaker, and when you talk about
all of the government, the general funds and the federal funds, they have to be shifted to be consistent, to be sustainable. Take care of employees with the local side, take care of, especially if they're permanent employees, if we intend these employees to be permanent.
Speaker, when you talk about the other governors that were sitting there on the stage with our governor, it's an easy Google. Like if you Googled ARP spending plans, like all the states, they have these very detailed websites that show where the money's going. We don't got nothing. We had like 3 pieces of paper. So I don't. That's
what I'm saying. I don't think it's a victory to say, oh, we were able to exclude our legislature. I think it's really gonna be a downfall for the people of Guam. Lack of transparency has really been plaguing our government for years. It's plagued our government before this governor, and it continues to plague our government. And if we can't get over that for ourselves, I don't blame our young people for being frustrated with the government of Guam and wanting to go look at other governments. But we can do so much better, and all it takes is really be, if you've got hard work that has been done, then let's see it, put it out, and we have to coordinate it. Almost all of this ARP pan, you look at it, it's affecting government agencies, right? Well, there's a lot of it. There's some of it for individual assistance, that's the RISE money. There's a lot of it for business assistance, and then the rest goes to government agencies, right? List by list. And so some of these I liked because they overlapped with what our plan had said, right? We wanted to put some money towards GWA for additional infrastructure. Some of these are completely new to me. For example, the employees part, right? And hiring significant amount of employees with ARP funds. And then, of course, what's shocking to me is the lack of funding for, like I said, public health and those agencies that were promised to be funded. We see like GMH, DICIT, Guam Behavioral Health, Revenue and Taxation. We agreed on that we want those agencies to have some of this ARP funds. They are most impacted, and we need changes in those agencies. But when you look at the detail, Chris, like you're describing in different states, we can tell what change is going to be made in those agencies. From this plan, we can't tell that right now. And so again, here we are. The agencies are spending their FY22 money. They're getting, looks like they will be getting ARP funds, but we may not in the end up with the same changes in those agencies that we intended when we went into the FY22 budget, or that the agencies told us when they went into the FY22 budget, and and we're not clear what the governor wants because it's not really detailed in her plan.
Yeah.
One example, let me just share this with you. It's like, for example, Public Works, right? She's promised to give Public Works additional $12 million, and it says for road projects. That sounds fantastic. We had also, put in our plan to give DPW money, and we also wanted, roads and other things. DPW came in their budget hearing and said, if we want $30 million in ARP funds, and if we get it, we're going to use it for equipment, buses, personnel, expenses for derelict buildings, bus drivers, heavy equipment, abandoned vehicles, the coral pit, stormwater, and sewer upgrades. And so they just don't jive. And so that hard work to make these things, a tight plan and one where everyone's going to be able to predict at the end of the year, what are we going to be looking at? What improvements? That's missing. And the other thing is that since this, we've had the infrastructure bill passed, and it looks like, there is going to be infrastructure money available for roads for sure. And I've been trying to get from DPW clarification as to, which roads are they going to be able to use that on? What is their plan with the money that we've now seen is going to be coming? It's the same thing when, I heard you talking earlier about we're getting infrastructure money in addition to ARP money. we don't have a plan, of course, for that infrastructure money, but we do know that some of it's going to go to the port, some of it's going to go to the roads, and so we've got those things in this ARP plan. So just
a lot of duplication.
Still a lot of questions. This ARP plan, by the way, funded some of the other things was like $385,000 for the Department of Military Affairs. They're still, funding in here the quarantine and isolation facilities. And I've not received any clarification. I've been asking as to, are these going to be reimbursed by FEMA? Does that mean we're going to have this 31 million again, or we're not, right? And I can't get a definite answer. Everybody says, oh yes, they should be, but I can't get it in writing, right? That it will be reimbursed by FEMA, the 31 million for quarantine and isolation. Then they're giving money to the Bureau of Women's Affairs, 129,000. They're giving money. We talked about this before, Sabrina, $7.8 million to GRMC. And then, 485 to Chief Medical Examiner, but they don't specify what these are for. And we've budgeted the Chief Medical Examiner. So we want to know, right, like what are the changes in the agencies that the governor's intending by her dedication of money to those agencies? Are those changes sustainable, or are they just putting on new employees for 1 or 2 years? And then the government of Guam, we're talking about merit employees. So we're going to be looking at an obligation that, we're going to have to find a way to sustain, those are the types of decisions I think that need to be made by both branches together. Things that are going to tie or give us an obligation beyond this funding for years going forward.
Speaker, the those numbers that you were throwing out, is that a breakdown? That because I didn't see that in the
is that the breakdown that's going around?
Right.
Well, I took the list or what the governors provided. We did send them a FOIA for the plan. We got a list, or we got a general breakdown, but it included all types of federal funding sources, local funding, and ARP. So it was not a clear ARP plan. It was just kind of what are we going to do on Guam plan in general, and then so we had to pull out all the ARP sources, and we made a list of those. We put it against the plan that we had submitted to the governor, so we could compare which ones she funded, which ones we agreed on, which ones were new. So that's where I'm getting that list of new ones.
Can you share that?
The one that we got that's circulating, it has like 569 governor's ARP, 51 million bonds, other federal funds, 1 billion, DOD funding, 47.3 million, local funds, 142.5 million, and then tax credits, loan guarantees, 78 million, for a total of 1.9 billion. Is that the one that you have?
No, I don't even see that list. My list doesn't look like that.
Oh, I'll send you the one we have. But I wanted to ask Speaker before, because I know Sabrina has questions too. When you talk about hiring, did you receive that WhatsApp message circulating from Guam EPA about send me your resume because we're hiring all these LTAs by Monday?
Oh, I haven't seen that, but Chris, this is my concern. I've been hearing this a lot in all agencies, like across the board, that there's a lot of limited term hiring going on in the agencies. And that's supposed to be really an exception, because we are supposed to be a merit-based, merit-based employment system in the government of Guam. So you're supposed to be competitive. That's the number one thing in a merit-based system is competition. You're supposed to be able to compete and fairly. And so that's my concern with limited term hiring anywhere. It's like, what was the need for that? And if it was a regular position and it's budgeted, then why not just go through the regular competitive process?
Yeah, because it looks like, so anyway, I'll send you the message, but we did get confirmation from Guam EPA that it came from a Guam EPA staffer, but it was released in haste ahead of any official announcement. But the problem I have with that is that this thing has been circulating around on WhatsApp, and it's basically saying, hey, we need to hire these positions by Monday, send me your resumes. And so, I don't know, it just really seems fishy to me that they didn't go through the official channels. And so Guam EPA had said that, there's going to be an official announcement coming out, but if they're trying to hire people by Monday, it doesn't really give people an opportunity And God, there's a lot of people without jobs out there who would love the opportunity, a fair shot at a government of Guam job.
Right. Well, I think that's, like I said, my understanding is that's becoming very common, or it's become very common again, and that they're hiring these limited terms, they're putting them into these positions, then they're going to do the formal announcements and try to do the competition. So sometimes, at least in the past, I don't know about right now, and it would be case by case, but sometimes they put people in limited term positions so that they can get experience in that position, so that when they make the formal announcements of those positions, then they are looking more qualified.
Yeah,
right?
but then other times they hire people in these positions, like let's say it's a limited term employment for 18 months. Oh, well, hey, look, that's just going to carry you right past the election.
Well, of course. I mean, yeah, sorry. I don't mean, of course. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes it looks like that. Yeah. Oh, okay. I take it back. The breakdown that I started with was one I got from the Post. Yeah, they had a breakdown of the funds. And so I started with that. We did send a FOIA. I don't think we've received a response yet.
You need to send a FOIA as the acting lieutenant governor?
You can't just go in there and like start looking in the filing cabinet? I mean, you can't really?
I haven't gone in and opened up filing cabinets at the governor's office. No, Chris and Sabrina, I'm not doing that.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, can
I'm
I
pretty
just...
sure they teach that in law school. Do
Yeah.
not go into official government agencies and start opening file
It's like on the
cabinets.
second day of law school,
I'm
right?
fairly
Yeah.
sure.
We
Go ahead,
are,
Speaker.
we're having session coming up this week.
Yes.
It had to get delayed, unfortunately, and that's really putting a time crunch on us. So we're going into session. There's several bills. The LEAP bill is one of them. So this is very relevant to our discussion this morning, right, regarding ARP funds. The governor has a program to put in about $25 million of ARP funds for a business program. She wants the legislature to put in another half from general funds. And I'm telling you, that's great if we have lots of money, but when we have a $14 million shortfall at public health, I am still, kind of stuck there. Like, well, where's the money for public health then? Where's that coming from if it's not going to come from our general fund? And it's clearly not coming from ARP now that we've seen the plan. What's the plan for that? And then we have hearings for public health adoption bills. We have for other things for public health sanitary permit. They're going to raise sanitary permit fees at public health because they can't fund inspectors. All right. So this is why it's all very relevant. So people can go spend money however they want. And in the end, it's people of Guam who are going to be facing increased fees because the government did not provide inspectors at public health to go inspect restaurants, karaoke bars, whatever, that we all know we need. You guys have done a million stories on that type of thing. We know we need this. It's so imperative. Yet the only way that this division of public health has seen to be able to increase their staff is through increased fees. And I just think that's outrageous. We need to put our priorities straight here. Anyways, so that's one. The LEAP bill is one. The other bill that is on the agenda is one of many bills that funds huge projects with earned income tax credit money, right? From calendar year 2020. And we had this whole discussion during our budget session. And Remitax said they don't think we're getting EITC reimbursement for calendar year or tax year 2020. We all appropriated the reimbursements for tax year 2021. Okay, so there's no dispute. We're getting 2021 tax year reimbursements and we appropriated that. However, these slew of bills using this, I call it right now, it's just looking phantom to me until somebody can show me, are we really getting this 2020 reimbursement money? Because it looks like Reverend Tax in their initial discussion with Treasury says, no, we're not. My discussions with the congressman,
Well, he's having a press conference today, I think, to clarify.
I hope he
those
clarifies
issues, yeah.
that, and that is exactly what I'm waiting for, because there's a lot of bills and a whole lot of money that they want to appropriate for projects that I think there's no such money. And so, of course, it's I guess senators can put in bills where the money does not exist, and yet I don't know. I'm just like, I don't like to do that, because I don't like to give promises to people that we can't keep, or that just looks like,
Sus, Speaker. That's what the kids say. It looks sus.
Anyway,
it looks sus.
Come on. So of course, anyways, I'm just
Anyways,
saying.
I got to ask before
honest.
we...
Let's
be
just be
honest.
honest.
Sounds
And let's
great.
just be, let's not get hopes up when these are like extra projects. These are not those critical things. These are not critical services, by the way. These are extra projects. So we need to, with the money we have, focus on the critical projects.
So the delay of a session, has that affected at all the oversight on Guam Memorial Hospital?
No, that's still going on.
Okay.
That's
And
still
that's
scheduled.
on December...
When is that? 14th? Yeah, 14th. Yes. So that's strictly regarding personnel. It's at 3 p.m. Yeah. And I want to thank you for, the information that you guys were able to obtain through your FOIAs.
Yeah.
It's surprising that the media also has the FOIA, right? So we're really living in the FOIA days, it looks like. Unfortunately, I just don't understand that. When I first... anyways, I guess I'll leave out that commentary.
I gotta go give GMH $30 for my FOIA. So when I go pay for it, I'll slide you a copy.
Yeah.
I might have to charge you though.
Yeah, I don't know if you're
I need to
aware of
make like at least an extra $5 profit.
Yeah, just let everyone know that the agenda, if they want to know what we're going to be talking about in the next session that's coming up on Monday, beginning on Monday, the agenda is online. I also published it in the newspaper, and there are a lot of bills, and that they should take a look at them. One of them is, to extend QCs for hotels, new rooms, and a QC for hotel renovations. That's I think the fiscal note did not give an amount of impact that might have, or which hotels this would affect. But that's one of the proposals on the table. And so the whole agenda is there on the legislature's website. You can see what we're going to be discussing. And as we do that, we should be uploading floor amendments and everything for the public to see as we are discussing. I want to thank you guys also for all your work, and all the people of Guam for their giving on Giving Tuesday, and of course, always. I think it's really, there's such a great need. It's amazing, right? When you see the pictures of all the donations, and yet these service providers still can tell me, thanks for your donation to the Ali shelter, but we still got a great need over here at Caradat, for the Manamco, right? And things like this. And the need never ends. So I want to thank all the people of Guam for their generosity, and for KUAM's work in that regard as well.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I'm sorry, I just had one question, because we did have Dr. Wynn on the show yesterday, and he was talking about, how these private clinics that have been serving as tier 1, tier 2 clinics, how they have not been reimbursed for any of the services that they provide and continue to provide during this COVID response. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I heard him on the radio talking about that, but you remember this was a big topic early on, right? Whether they were getting paid or not was never clear. And what they would get paid for was never put in writing, at least in all of the oversight hearings that I have had over public health. That's come up. They've never made it clear that they are going to do that. Then they came out with the CARES Act plan, remember, or their expenditure reports for CARES. And so I'm not sure whether they got paid some, and now they're just waiting to get paid more, or that that's my understanding. But look at this. There's a big section here, GRMC, 7 million, right? So that's the problem. I can't justify that with a lack of any more information against, the CARES funding that they might have received versus, the other tier 2 clinics. But that's a concern if that was their understanding. But I have not seen an agreement, right? That that I'm able to enforce or I'm able to, even follow up with.
Right.
I've asked many times from the clinics and from the public health, but I've not seen one.
All right.
From the physicians advisory group, I've asked them as well, right? Do you have an agreement with these tier 2 clinics? They said they were, it changed. Sometimes they were volunteer and not sure.
It's interesting, though, that you have the campaign chairman heading GRMC, and it looks like he got a bunch of money. So, anyway. It is what
Very
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I attended the hearing recently. I think it was just a congressman and me on this. Gita's had a public hearing to allow or to, it was a public hearing prior to the governor's designation of this is a public service or a public benefit, right?
Yeah.
That the nonprofit is going to purchase the hospital from GRMC. And the questions I asked, no one would answer at the hearing, not at all. The Santos from GRMC, he was there, former Senator Santos, but he didn't answer the questions. And what I wanted to know as well was, does the change in ownership change the services to the people of Guam? Is it going to impact what we're relying on GRMC is providing? So it's not being provided at GMH necessarily. Remember when they transferred the labor and delivery back over to GMH?
Yeah.
And so just that type of thing. I wanted to know what are the impacts on services that the nonprofit is going to change any of their operational plans, right? Or their health delivery plan. And also I wanted to know who the shareholders were in the nonprofit or not the shareholders, but the directors. Who is it being run by and just what their commitment to Guam was and what their plans for Guam were. I think that's fair. And I wanted to know if the change in ownership also affects like what types of patients they would be able to accept, right? Are they going to change whether they accept Medicaid or MIP, that type of thing? I wanted to see that as well. So I've asked Gita for that information. They said they had no plans in front of them to tell me the information. And then
So they're doing
but
it
I
like
did
they're
see
doing.
that after the hearing, GRMC put out a press release, talking about this nonprofit and promising that services are going to be this way or that way. So I'm reading that press release, but I'm also asking Gita to confirm any of this information.
Okay, Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great day.
Take care, you all.
Yes, right on. 8:31. Let's go ahead and get right into our 8 o'clock newscast, which is brought to you by Pacific Points at 8:30, Thursday, December 2nd.
And before we get to Jason,